Hi there, this is Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez in your Design Your Physician Life podcast. And today we're going to be talking about lifestyle medicine for the burnout physician. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Design Your Physician Life podcast, where you will get excited about being a physician, learn the tools that can help boost your success, and great tips from successful doctors. Join us to unlock the keys to an amazing physician life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez.
I am left feeling not just overworked, but incompetent in my ability to help my patients. Have you heard this before? I think this has been a lot of what we've been thinking for many years now in medicine, as we've seen the evolution or, regression of medicine, the ability that we have to take care of our patients from what we've learned to what we think our care of the patient should be and what we're capable of doing. Today, we're going to be examining a topic that's very important. Just yesterday, I learned while I was actually giving a lecture about this to a group of people at a national conference about the latest physician to commit suicide, a young anesthesiology resident. I was a resident once, and I was deeply moved by her story. So I really want to talk about this topic today. As we know, even before COVID, 300 to 400 physicians were dying by suicide. This has worsened apparently since then. We know that the suicide is 250 to 400% higher among female physicians when compared to females in other professions. And we really want to try to avoid more deaths, if possible, treat burnout. We know that burnout is a significant cause for what's happening in our community and our physician community. And we want to learn and share techniques that might be helpful for anybody who's in this situation. One of the things that we want to discuss, COVID did have an impact. Usually there's an impact during the epidemic. Burnout is approximately like 32% in a particular study that was published in 2021. But there was this other population that was interviewed by the Stanford Well MD Center in California, where instead of, in 2020, that overall rate of physician burnout for the population that they had interviewed was 38%. And in 2021, that doubled up. It, almost doubled up. It went to 62.8%. We know that now the percentage of physicians who are working full-time has fallen by at least 4% than before COVID. And female physicians who have babies at home, who are parents of preschool age children, they're also not coming back to work. It was from 18 to 14% the drop. The situation is, for us as physicians is very painful. But unfortunately, our jobs are not ready to deal with this. Just last year, September 2022, nearly 9 out of 10 healthcare leaders did not have a formal plan or strategy to reduce physician burnout. And only 19% reported having a formal written or retention plan for physicians. Just that same year, Medscape, I know that many of you are familiar with Medscape. They did a survey of over 9,000 physicians, and they were trying to figure out how physicians were affected by COVID in the last year. And they said that 37% answered that they were significantly affected by COVID. One of the things that we have to define is really this burnout. What is burnout and when does burnout happen? In medicine, we can get some confusion between, it can be like a perfect storm, right? As we age in medicine, we come from a situation where many of our peers who did not go to medicine, they're starting to deal with this of midlife crisis and mid-career crisis, right? We haven't gotten a break. We've gone through medical school, residency, fellowship. And by the time that we're working, we start, like real work, paid work for the level of education. For us, we could be in that situation, right? Where we can be dealing with our hormones starting to change. Women specifically, we start with our premenopause symptoms 10 years earlier. So in our 30s, when we have just come out of our residencies or fellowships, we are just on time to have those hormones hit. So we could be dealing with any of these situations. Specifically for burnout related to work, this basically happens is a result from a clash between our ideals, that we possess, including what we think that was a calling to be in a medical field, or what we've learned that the care should be. And then when we face reality, the frustration of what we actually experience, there's so many hurdles, so many things between the care that we want to provide and the care that we're capable to provide to our patients, that it becomes impossible. And we have what's called intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So we can have what we come up with, not many of us, let's say some of us are basically not raised in either healthy environments, or we did not acquire the tools, or we come with what's, depression, anxiety, mental illness that really was not treated. And unfortunately, during our questionnaires, when we were filling out applications for all these programs and jobs and everything, they do ask those questions, but we feel that we're going to be punished is the sentiment that we have. We're not really going to be treated, taken care of, so that then we can perform and be a successful physician. So it might be that many of us really go untreated because of the fear of losing what we would really love to have the most, which is that opportunity to take care of patients. So many people will go without treatment, or they will just not have the tools to deal with disappointment. And then there's also the extrinsic motivation, all those things in our environment, right? The poor relationships that we might have, the lack of sleep, things that are happening around us, maybe access to good foods. We don't have access to good foods while we're in this residency, for example, necessarily, and opportunities for exercise, or to, become friends with other people because of isolation in our career. So there's intrinsic and extrinsic motivation that really, depending on the levels where we are, will provoke to have burnout either quicker or at different levels. And the most promising mechanisms for decreasing burnout involve working with both the individual intrinsic motivation and the extrinsic motivation, working with the external environment. So in what we call lifestyle medicine, we know the consequences of burnout, right? Physician burnout. We know that if you don't sleep, is equivalent as if being impaired under the influence. It can be as significant. So we are taking care of patients at times when we are in a very poor situation, not able to be as sharp as we would like to be. And, it increases medical errors. There's poor job performance. If we're not looking good, people are not going to want to follow our advice. Also, obviously, there's increased suicide. There's a lot of physicians wanting to abandon the field, increased litigation. And we know how expensive it is to hire a physician. They say that in 2018, they estimated that $4.6 billion were spent annually just because of physician turnover and reduced clinical hours. There's the Stanford, they have the Stanford Junior University, and they have defined where professional fulfillment lives. And it's really in between a combination of the efficiency of our practices, personal resilience, and the culture of wellness in our environments. And the efficiency of practice happens, or, we are able to achieve it when our systems are working well. I know that there's going to be a lot of debate about this, what's a good working system. And for example, the EHR was meant to be initially a good way of communicating, but it has become such a huge burden, so many clicks that have to be done before we can just, finish that patient documentation. The teamwork might not be there. Communication might not be efficient. Problems with IT, all these things, the systems, the processes, the practices that promote that our workplaces are safe and we can provide good quality and effectiveness and have a positive impact in our patients, our colleagues. They have to be there. That balance has to be there. If it's not there, it's part of that cogwheel that's really is going to be deficient and lead us into burnout. And we know that there's a lot of that component. Besides that, our personal resilience, as I said, not many, not many, but not all of us really are having these tools of personal resilience. So we don't all have the individual skills, the behaviors, the attitudes that will really contribute to a good well-being, a physical, emotional, and professional well-being. Not all of us have the encouragement at home or from our peers, or even like financial education, right? Those things are so important. And then the third part, which is the part that I want to focus a little bit on, is the culture of wellness. And I think that there's some intrinsic and extrinsic factors that we can learn from lifestyle medicine specifically that can make burnout, dealing with burnout better. When you're dealing with burnout, you can deal with burnout from what we call primordial prevention, which is decreasing the risk factors before that burnout, the onset of burnout. Then you can go into primary prevention, which is when you identify and reduce the source of burnout. Then you have a secondary prevention, which will reduce the severity of the burnout. And then the tertiary is when you minimize the adverse consequences of burnout. And when you apply lifestyle medicine in both the individual and the group or the external capacities, you can really actually impact burnout in any of these areas. So the main 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, they involve around the areas of healthy relationships, stress, sleep, nutrition, substance abuse, and exercise. In the individual component, if we consider the home and community environment for ourselves and we work on those relationships, we know that we're going to have a better time. And when those are healthy, they will help us mitigate things that are happening at work. Stress, we know that not all of us will be able to really deal in a good way with stress. We've had a lot of stress. It can decrease our production. It can lead to anxiety, depression, obesity. We can become more prone to be sick, be absent for work. So learning to recognize, our negative stress responses, identify some coping mechanisms, and reduction of stress is going to be super important for us. And those are things that we can do, but we need habits for that. And we need sometimes some guidance and coaching, which, in the individual part it's going to be our responsibility. In terms of sleep, as I said, sleep can be as bad as being impaired. So defining habits, defining conditions that will lead for us to be able to sleep well will help us with improving our immune system, improving our memory, and decreasing medical errors. In terms of food, if you take a look at that same study that I mentioned earlier from Medscape, they did this evaluation on over 9,000 physicians last year. Still, over 30% will cope with burnout eating junk food or drinking alcohol. Is going to be up to 22%. If we have stress or we are feeling down, many of us will go and hit those foods. And the truth is that if we have predominantly whole plant-based foods rich in fiber and nutrients, we're going to feel more energetic, more clear, and we're going to be able to contribute more and be able to attack, to combat and be alert into what it is that is causing our burnout. Substance abuse. Unfortunately, we still have physicians who are dealing with substance abuse. This was actually an anesthesiology up to 10%, which is a high number, for substance abuse in the professionals. And we had earlier in one of our podcasts, we had one of our physicians tell us that the substance will cause physical dependence, right, in our body. But if you just focus on taking the substance away, but you don't focus on the things that are promoting the physician to take this substance, like their anxiety or depression, then the substance abuse will continue to be a huge threat. So the most important for these people to avoid the substance abuse will be really to treat the underlying depression and anxiety. And then exercise, we know exercise increases our endorphins, makes us feel better. Regular exercise, 20 to 30 minutes are going to be great if we can do that on a regular basis, ideally, every day, if not every other day of the week. Yet, if you take a look at this study from Medscape, only 50% of us will do exercise to cope with burnout when we're teaching our patients that they should be exercising. Also, only 45% of us will deal with, remember I told you about the relationships with your family and your community, your friends, only 45% of us will go and cope with burnout using the company of our family and friends. So what can our systems do, right? Our companies do to help as an extrinsic factor improvement through lifestyle medicine, which, it has to come hand in hand. It's not only the individual, our systems need to really be prepared for this. We saw how many are really prepared, like 1 in 10 basically are prepared for this. So 90% are not. And whenever we're going to establish some systems to work with any improvements in our companies, in our places of work, we should do SMART goals. As part of that, we should measure this. There's tons of inventories that can be used, that can be started to measure the impact of what's happening in terms of the burnout and the impact of the changes that the companies and hospitals and facilities are doing. So for creating lifestyle changes, healthy relationships, we would recommend for the companies to reduce the stigma about burnout at their institutions, keep a doctor's lounge to socialize, teaching entrepreneurship that has helped me, and share the business language so that physicians have a way of connecting outside, being able to be creative and being able to be involved and have oversight of something that is meaningful to them. In terms of stress, not making them necessarily, go to coping and resilience programs, but offering them, explaining the benefits of them, having them access to free mindfulness classes at hours that physicians can attend in and outside the institution. In terms of the sleep, when I was a resident, a chief resident in my program in anesthesiology, one of the things that I made sure is that I helped change the location of the call room. So having good call rooms for the physicians who are serving, and having schedules and hours where that can be facilitated is going to be very important. And I know that it's been very difficult, especially post-COVID, precisely because of everybody leaving, because people live in medicine in such a higher rate than previously, and hiring is more difficult to deal with schedules. But if you take care of this and you look from before, then you're going to be able to attract and retain more physicians. So our call room was like far away from the operating room, and we were able to bring that much closer to the operating room. Nutrition, I'm telling you, if you have a place where the doctors lunch, where the doctors socialize, and you offer them whole foods, plant-based, and you offer that for everybody in your hospital, you should be offering this. People are gonna be able to produce better, be more mentally clear for being, for the duties at the hospital. The other thing is that offer scheduled group exercising at no cost, welcome local sports groups to talk to employees, and set reminders throughout to help people to move. That's going to be very important. And one last thing that we also discussed in that podcast with our physician who came to talk to us about addiction and physicians was to have an anonymous help for the employees for drug addiction and mental health struggles. And we know that there are these programs that people get supported, but they're really not anonymous, and people don't tell to get the support that they need just because of that threat. So there's tools out there that can be provided that the physicians can get help. Well, guys, I hope that this was useful to you, learning some intrinsic and extrinsic things that we all can do in terms of lifestyle, specifically to deal with that culture of wellness, which is one of the three components that can help us with burnout. And I hope that, if you have a friend, a colleague, if you're yourself feeling in a situation where you feel lost. I've been there. I've been burned out. Luckily, I did not experience suicidal thoughts, but I was able to reach for help. And I found that help through entrepreneurship. That's what we do in our mastermind. That's why I have a mastermind group. And that's why I have this, because I know that we can help people get out of this burnout situation. It can be reversed, it can be prevented, and you can thrive. Have a great day. Bye. Well, that's it for today. I hope you had fun like we did today and you learned some. Please visit our page, maxallure.com, MAXALLURE, where you can learn more about our personal and professional development program for physicians. I hope that you can join us later. Subscribe to this podcast and give us 5 stars. Share with your family and friends. See you later.
Please remember that Design is not providing specific financial, medical, or career advice. Our only intent is to stimulate your appetite for growth by sharing our experience and those of our speakers, coaches, and guests. Your personal growth and success will be unique to your circumstances and your hard work. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to seeing you next week.